Bobby Seale is the leader of the Black Panther Party. Now, again, the defendants would tell you that these are three distinct groups, but they all...
Excuse me.
Yes?
May I speak?
No, sir.
He just said my name.
You're a defendant in this case. You're likely to hear your name.
I have a right to counsel, and His Honor knows that.
Don't tell the court what it does and does not know. Be seated. Mr. Schultz.
The radical left, that's all. They're the radical left in different costumes.
Hi, listening people.
I
Overruled.
far out.
Contempt of court for you.
Ryan and Eddie can put the Ace Attorney gavel sound in.
No, I'll just play, instead of our usual little piano music, I'll play one of the courtroom music pieces from Ace Attorney, just to give us the legal
We don't need the
feeling.
We don't need the monetization for this episode.
We don't need it, because we're here to talk about a movie here on Spit and Polish Presents.
Who's here?
Well, you've already said some names. I've already said some names.
Well, I said our editor's name.
Well, I'm that editor. It's me. I'm the same person.
You're the Ryan?
And you're the Bartek.
Drop the.
No.
That's a Sorkin reference.
Oh, sorry. That's a famous Sorkin reference. That wily old Sorkin. He's at it again.
Oh, sorry, you haven't seen Social Network, have you?
Oh, I'm aware of that moment, though. It's a famous moment. So, we are here to do Pictures Powwow, in which we talk about a film that has come recommended from somebody. This time round, Bartek recommended the film.
That's me.
After this discussion is done, you'll hear my recommendation for the next movie that will be covered. And after my recommendation, after we do that, we take recommendations from you, the listening people. So if you have a suggestion for a film for us to cover, give us the knowledge, give us the info, shout it out to the sky. If anything, more effective would probably be write it down and email it to us or message us on social medias. But if you scream loud enough, Bartek, who is great with hearing, will hear you. Your wind chimes will pick it up, Bartek. They'll filter out the person screaming, Salo, Salo, and you'll hear it. And you're like, oh, yes, the Days of Sodom will be added.
Is it 100 Days of Sodom? Yep. Yeah.
So, yep. We could add that to the list because it was weird. Bartek's mum recommended that one. It was
Mum,
strange.
How could
Strange.
you?
Family film, she said.
Making me watch guy eating poo-poo. Bunch of guys eating poo-poo.
Bunch of guys.
Right? Yeah.
Please get it correct. Get the facts right, because we're here to talk about a movie that definitely got the facts right. They got no inaccuracies in what it was doing.
It's a legal drama based on his story.
What story?
His story. And who's the main character? I don't know. We asked ourselves that question just before recording. We don't know.
Aaron Sorkin's the main character. That's who it is.
No, that's the director.
And writer.
He's the director and writer of the film The Trial of the Chicago 7 from 2020.
And you recommended this, so how about you tell everyone a bit about what The Trial of the Chicago 7 is about?
Sure. So The Trial of the Chicago 7 is based on a real trial that happened in 1969, I think, based on the protests that happened about the Vietnam War in the year prior, 68. And it follows 7, or is it 8, people who were big figures in a large protest that happened in Chicago. There are people from 3 or 4 different factions of groups that wanted to protest the war. And this big protest that they were all kind of part of resulted in a big police riot. And this is the trial that's taking place that is prosecuting these
people, yeah.
People, yes.
So that is the summary. So everyone make sure to give this a viewing for yourself so you can soak it all in, take it in, just muse on this, and then come back and hear us go through all of the details that we can and discuss and deconstruct it and turn it around and be like, what was this about? What was this about? Now, I just want to say straight up top that I was familiar with this film only from slight word of mouth when it came out. Aaron Sorkin is a big name. We even discussed at the end of our last episode that this will be the first time we've done anything from Aaron Sorkin. He's a well-known screenwriter. He has directed a few pieces of work, and he's a name unto itself. Like, his style, his approach is very specific and has a very specific way of going about topics, very politically driven in nature, very much concerned about American beliefs, and on it goes. And so I was not really interested in seeing this film when it initially released, because I don't really care for Aaron Sorkin projects all that much. I don't hate them, but I don't love them. They've always left me indifferent. I'm just left there going, okay. I know people have strong views on him and his work. Some people love it, some people hate it. And I've just never been really driven to have much of a desire about his perspective as a creative voice. I've just never went, I really want to get into the trenches of Aaron Sorkin's psyche, because he is an auteur voice in that way. He does have his dialogue is very particular, the way he directs is very particular, and there's just something about it where, I even stated it a moment ago, it's very American. And sometimes that turns me off. I've said it on this podcast several times over the years, where sometimes the critique will be, it's just very American. And as a non-American, it's hard to care, because a lot of times when I say that, I mean, thinly veiled mean it's very arrogant. It's very self-obsessed. There's something about like the American dream, the American view, the American persona, whatever you want to say it is, like they're number one. The world revolves around us. All of these problems that have ever happened in history are actually important because they happened to us. And I'm sitting here going, okay.
When this film ended with everyone standing up and clap, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It was a real Tumblr story. But it's a real story. I just wanted to get that all out of the way because, in all fairness, I didn't know much about the film itself. I didn't know much about this trial. I didn't know much about who was in it. When you revealed Sacha Baron Cohen was in this movie, and you revealed to me just before we started recording, he was nominated for this film, I didn't even know that. I knew very little other than people really enjoyed Frank Langella as the judge, and that the year this came out in 2020 was one of the cinematic villains of the year that people really pointed to and, that piece of shit.
Okay.
Like, what a piece of shit that character is, just in a loving way of just like, wow, we love to hate this guy. What a prick. And I knew it was a Netflix movie that Sorkin partnered up with Netflix, and it was straight to Netflix, and it was well timed considering the pandemic and all of those things, but that added a little less legitimacy to it as a film, because there's that idea of like, if it's a straight to streaming blah, especially with Netflix, it's seen as lesser than, and there is some credence to that belief, and there's also lots against that belief.
Well, wasn't this one where they tried to get it in cinemas, but there was just no way to do it considering the pandemic, so this was like a last resort?
Yeah, I believe so. So you recommended this, so tell us a little bit more about your history, experiences, journey, understanding of the film.
To be honest, it's very low. Like, all I really knew was that, because I used to watch the Oscars every year. I think I stopped the year after this film came out. Whichever one, the Oscars are at the train station. And I remember Sacha Baron Cohen was nominated for it, and that just stood out to me like, oh yeah, he sometimes does films that are not really like centered around like his vision or something like that, and he's usually pretty good in them. I'll note that in the back of my mind. And we've done a couple of legal dramas over the course of this podcast that I've always really enjoyed, and I was just in the mood for one. So I thought, hey, what about that one? That one sounds acclaimed. Like, I really, really did not know anything else about it. I didn't know about the real life, that it was based on a real life case. I didn't really know who the directors or anything like that were. Alan Sorkin's just one of those names that I happen to know, but I couldn't tell you anything about. So when you mentioned that he did The Social Network, that was like my anchoring point for who this guy was. And while watching the film, I'm like, oh, I can tell that this is by The Social Network guy. Yeah, it just feels...
A Few Good Men.
Yeah, I've never seen A Few Good Men, so that would have been another one to probably recommend. But from
cultural osmosis.
Yeah, you can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was really going into this blind. Like the only other thing was that your last recommendation, Waves, the lead actor of that film, I read up that he was in this film, so it just put it in the forefront of my mind.
Interesting.
So
So
it was really based on like very little, familiarity with this thing. Just like, hey, let's give this a go. Like, I don't know anything about it, but it seems like it's going to be good.
So you found out about this film's existence post its release, like obviously
Yeah.
later on when the awards came out for it. And was that a draw factor for you to ever want to seek it out, or was it just, we're doing the podcast now and you're looking at like what are films that came out during the time
I mean,
of the pod?
I mentioned it one of the last episodes that we did before this one that like a lot of my familiarity with movies that have come out in the past 10 years are just from the fact that I watch the Oscars a lot and I wasn't going to the cinema that often. So I would just hear about like, oh, what were the big films from the year? And it's like, oh, well, all of these ones. And so I just remembered a couple, like Marriage Story was one like that. And there's probably been a couple of others. And so I was thinking that, for this year, I'm probably going to be picking out a few of the ones that I remember from those times where I watched the Oscars.
That's fair. We have discussed this over the years that you've been less in touch with new release works.
Yeah.
And
first half of the 2010s, like I was fairly in there.
yeah, and then you've just prioritized different things over the years. And so it's always interesting to come back and see like, okay, what did you miss, Bartek? And you've even stated like it's hard to break out of like the awards contenders type
absolutely.
format because that's and I think this kind of leads into my opinions on the film. That's where the normie things are. This was a very normie movie. I did not like this movie, but I can't say I hated it because it's an interesting story. Like it's one of those classic cases of it's a true story that's inherently fascinating, complicated, messy, but ultimately interesting. But executed in a way that I found very muddled, very frustrating, very dull, and most importantly, but most damningly, inauthentic. I never was emotionally drawn in and or intellectually drawn in. And the film is begging for me to have either one of those be the case. And outside of, again, me thinking about how this really happened, my investment in the film's, case that it's making was not real for me. I just was like, I was, again, being drawn to it because this was a real thing that happened. And I just knew when I was done, I'll want to read about this more. Because the film is giving me a very mannered, very Hollywood, very writerly breakdown in a nice 3-act structure way of something that I know for sure was much messier and much more complicated and much more intriguing and interesting. And that's where I come down with the film. There's great performances, but there's also some bad performances. And it's just, it's a push and pull for me where I don't like the movie, but I can't say I dislike it fully because this is a really cool story. Like this, the whole thing, all of these characters have so much going on for them, but that comes back to that is because of something outside of the film itself. So down to liked the idea, but the execution was lacking for me.
I would say that I liked this film. I did have a good time with it, but a lot of it does come down to my personal interest in the story. It was a very weird case of I'm following along with the film. I'm getting like, who the good guys are, who the bad guys are in this story, but my mind just keeps coming back to the fact that like this is based on a real story. There is very, very clearly like some sort of like twists to how this is being portrayed that might veer off of how real life went. So like I would look at like the judge character and like he is, like you said, like one of the iconic villains of the 2020 Hollywood landscape. He is very obviously the antagonist of this film, but my mind just keeps wondering like, but how much of that is exaggerated? Like I keep doubting the film's like authenticity in that way.
Yeah, and with him, I think if you do look up, a lot of it is exactly like that. There is lots of you look this up, and this is I think, to get this out of the way first, when reviewing a film or a piece of media that is based on true events, there's always, I guess, given each reviewer, each individual discussing the piece, the delicate balancing act of like, how much do we want to talk about and research and look up and fact check and go through all of the real life stuff of it, and how much do we want to talk about this as a narrative on its own? And honestly, it depends the film. It's hard to separate the things. Like, for instance, with this movie, there's so many elements that I feel it's difficult not to want to look up the real life case and see how the film deviates from that and get into the discourse of that or not. While something like talking about trial movies that we've done on the podcast, like, we've had stuff that have been inspired or taken this or that, like an Anatomy of a Murder, for instance, is one where it's like, that's inspired by a real thing. I didn't feel drawn to go through all the nitty-gritty of that because that story was very concise and focused on its ethos and its characters and what it's saying about the system at large and the legal system and so on and so forth. Where that movie will be like, and our judge character is played by like a real-life legal figure as well, and he's going to embody the kind of kooky nature, and I never had to worry about that. But with the trial of Chicago 7... there's this element where I just watch and go, why at the end of the credits do we stop the movie and give us the classic, this is what happened to all these characters?
Yeah.
And some of them get way more detail than others.
Some are straight up not mentioned.
Some are straight up not mentioned. It's called the Chicago 7. Not all of the 7 get a shout out. And some of them are just like absent, or like they're given a little sentence to be like, this is what happened to them. And it makes you go, oh no, I want to look up more about that. But not in a way where a film was like, this was a really compelling story, I really want to look up more. It's more, I'm feeling a sense of it's incomplete.
If you're going to be telling me this much, I want you to at least give me the equal amount for all the relevant figures.
So I can't speak for Bartek, but for myself, in this discussion, I'm going to mainly focus on the film itself, but there will be some people in this story that I can't help but think of the real life versions of, and how the film either does them a service or disservice. Like, the judge is like a fun character, and like, you read up about the judge and a lot of those things are there, but you have characters that in the movie I personally don't care about as characters, as people, but the film does. Like Eddie Redmayne's character, the film is like, he's the heart of this. He's like the intellectually stimulating character, and he's at war with Abby Hoffman, which is Sacha Baron Cohen's character. These two characters are the most interesting characters to the film.
Yeah. And
the lawyer as well. Those three are the most interesting characters, but I'm sorry, they're not. They're just not. Not to me. The Black Panther leader is the most interesting character of the film. And the film doesn't want that to be the case. They isolate him off in a way that is not in rhythm of what the film is saying. It comes down to even his sentence at the end of the movie that they give you. They just say, oh, he didn't do that murder. They don't talk about what his like political career was. He had a political career too. He moved away from the Black Panther stuff. He became election. You look all this stuff up. The film doesn't want to do that, but it will for Eddie Redmayne's character. It will for Abby Hoffman. Like, it will do it for all these ones that it's interested in. But but the one character that I found the most sympathetic and most understandable, the film is like, we even acknowledge that the lawyers are using him as a device, but the film is as well. Like, you're going to have the scene where this character is bound and gagged and shooted in a way that's like very, here it is, very confrontational. But then once it's over, we won't think about that again. We moved on.
Yeah, so personally for me, I have not looked up much about the real trial at all, so I can't really speak for it other than maybe like one or two, facts, like that guy's still alive, or this character said this thing that, would have been good to mention in this film. So
this character actually had long hair and was scraggly. Like, that's one of the core details. Like the really neat looking young guy that they had in the Chicago 7. He just look like a hippie. But the film's like, that goes against our point.
Right. So I can only really speak for what the film showed us. And yeah, even with the Black Panther character, who is kind of the eighth of the Chicago Seven, like the whole point of him is that, you know, he's forced into this trial even though he's not actually relevant to it. He's like very, very tertiary, and it's for, you know, rigging just all the opinions against this group.
Yes, racially charged,
but
weaponizing stuff.
Yeah. But it really did feel like they were keeping him at a distance in a lot of ways. Like, he would only pipe up every now and then and get shut down, and that was like the recurring thing with him throughout the film. And then, you know, after we do have the bound and gagged thing, like, we have really good responses from our main characters to that event, but the character itself, like, kind of just ceases to be a thing.
Once he's dismissed from the movie.
Yeah.
When we're in between the trial, we get scenes of all the other characters, you know, out and about. Oh, he is, you know, they bump into Joseph Gordon-Levitt with his daughter, and we're going to have all this stuff. But Bobby Seale, we don't get to see much of him. We don't get to see him being locked up, and we get to hear the lawyer talk about how he's been locked up for contempt. We don't get to see it, really. We don't get to experience it. And I flag him up because he is the most emotionally resonant character, even though he is sidelined. Like, in the court system, he's on purposely sidelined, even though he's saying this goes against his rights. And since that is true, and we all know it's true, I, as a viewer, inherently am gravitating to him the most because he's the victim and the underdog. While the others, they're victims too, I'm not denying that, but they're allowed to do stand-up gigs. And as even his character says, as Bobby Seale says, his freedom relies on the past of like a rope being thrown over a tree while you are just trying to get vengeance on your daddy. Like, that's a different type of life.
Yeah, that was what I was going to bring up too. He's got like 2 non-court scenes that I can remember. It's like the beginning of the film where they're doing like the Warriors thing of like what everyone is doing before the thing happens. And then, yeah, that scene where it's just the 3 of them in that room having like a little meeting with him in, I think, like in the prison or something.
Yeah.
And he gets to have like a little monologue about, you know, how he's different from them. And he's got some really good lines.
And I don't know what to say about Eddie Redmayne's character that isn't just, it follows a very safe formula of a Hollywood film. His character arc, you know, it's neat. It's very tidily done. It's not very thought-provoking for me. But Bobby Seale is a thought-provoking and emotionally engaging character. Abby Hoffman in this movie, to a degree, is, but then the film does some things with his character that I feel is a betrayal of what he's been throughout the whole movie. Like, he's the guy that's been the most anarchic, and they kind of play on, like, is he selfish? Is he a provocateur for the sake of it? And then when he gets on the court stand himself, he's the guy that's like, the system's good, actually. We just have a few bad apples. I'm like, fucking what?
Yeah, it really stood out. This isn't the character we've been following. And again, I didn't look anything up, but you told me before we started recording that, like, yeah, that didn't happen. He was the same character in real life.
Yeah, he has,
at that moment.
You can read the transcripts. He has a much more, like, the system needs to be torn down type response to things. So, yeah.
And going back to the Eddie Redmayne thing, like, there's one scene where, like, he's being interrogated by his own lawyer, like, you know, when they're in their little house that they do research in. It's like, we have this recording of you saying this thing that, like, pretty much incriminates you as like the instigator of this whole riot. And like, it is interesting because like, oh, okay, we had this other conclusion that we were going for, but now we're casting this character who's like the straight-laced goody two-shoes in like the biggest light of like, oh, you're responsible for all this. This is going to be interesting going forward, seeing how the trial progresses with this information out there. But then by the end of the scene, they twist his words in a way that just felt very writerly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This film is you have the eureka moment.
Yeah. And even
in the movie, too, that's very writerly, where a character says some incidental thing, and then the 2 lawyers, like, give each other a bug-eyed look and, like, we figured out a thing.
What a big plot twist. I'm like, oh, okay.
Something that feels less involving because the audience doesn't have the legwork to do it. Well, again, talking about legal dramas we've done on the podcast, one of the more recent examples was Anatomy of a Murder. You were with Jimmy Stewart beat by beat. So when he made Eureka moments, we actually understood what those Eureka moments were formed from because they were in the movie and we cared more. Well, this is like a typical, like, the lawyers in the room will know.
He made a semantic error, but then when you dissect like what he actually meant to say, it's like, oh, no, that makes you all right then.
Yeah,
It feels like it could be done in a more engaging way, but the fact that like the scene like begins and ends, begins with like, oh, plot twist, and then ends with like, oh, but it's actually all right.
I want to pivot to something else with this because we're talking about like these things. The seven themselves, sure, they're very interesting, but something that's very confusing to me about the movie, not so confusing when you know Aaron Sorkin, the man who wrote West Wing, is this film anti-cops or not? Like, is it against the cops? Is it against the system? Because it understands that that's the problem, right? It knows that's the problem. Like, it'll give us like the ironic little cuts of like a cop on the stand telling a bold-faced lie and then the flashback to what actually happened. Like, we get that a lot. But then there'll be these unironic moments where it's like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, who is not a cop himself, but he's on the side of the law.
Prosecutor.
He's the prosecutor. And the undercover female cop. We're supposed to be like, these guys, they're the good apples. They're the good apples in that rotten system. And if we just let it do it their way, it'll be fine. But the film also unironically shows them be thoughtless cogs in the machine that carries out its justice that's inherently corrupt. But by the end, both of them are like, these Chicago 7, they had a point, and we smile. It's like the undercover agent woman is like, if you are in the thought process of what the movie is, which is the Chicago 7, if you're from their thought process, she's like a morally reprehensible, corrupt character.
Yeah,
but the film lets her have a happy ending where she gives a little smile and we are supposed to be like sympathetic towards her and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, because Joseph Gordon-Levitt, sorry, very rightly, has a kid. Oh, that means he's a human being.
He's got 2 kids.
Yeah, he has children, so we should care about him, even though he is like stooge. He's just a idiot in a suit, but we're supposed to like him because he's a human being too, guys.
Yeah, that female cop like straight up breaks the heart of one of the more likable of the 7, who's like the comic relief kind of one. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like the film kind of opens with that character, and on the question of like, is the film anti-cop or not? I think the film wants to comment about the powers above the cops more so than the cops themselves.
Yeah, and what does it have to say about that, though?
At least for this period of time, like the Attorney General and the, I guess, prosecutor office were incredibly corrupt to the point of just rigging the trial against the defendants, like in ludicrous amount of ways. And that there are people who are part of this system that recognize that, and even when they get them to testify, like Michael Keaton, not even that is enough, even though like everyone in the courtroom, like audience and the counsel themselves, are like booing or like groaning at the fact that like heckling at the fact that like this is clearly unjust.
It's a kangaroo court, basically. Yeah. The judge is this cartoon character, but because the system is the way it is, no one can stop him from being as much of a thug as he is until like after. Like Michael Keaton's advice is just like, hey, work on that appeal. Like he's like, it's done.
Yeah.
Like nothing you can do.
And the way we're introduced to like the fact that this judge is like no good is he's interrupting Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's like on his side in a way.
Yeah.
Like during his opening statements, like he's going right up to the jury and he's like, using, social language to like, get his point across. And the judge just keeps interrupting him with like these very inane things. It was like very annoying, but like effectively annoying.
Yeah, he's a wild card.
Yeah,
the judge is a wild card. Like,
yeah.
he's an insane, in the world of like, if it was the Roman Empire, he's like the Caligula insane guy who does everything, and the other people in the Senate are like, what the fuck do we do?
Yeah, when Joseph Gordon-Levitt finally gets to finish his opening statement, he just like jumps straight to the point in like a sentence or two and then just moves on.
So you get to know cinematic lawyer moment because it's always interrupted by the judge or by the defense. He never gets like he never gets like George C. Scott does in Anatomy of a Murder, where he's the prosecution, but he gets like his big lawyer moments. In this movie, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is always robbed of them because people are interrupting him. It's just that was humorous. Yeah, I don't know. I just find it a bit awkward how the film will have all of these clear demonstrations that the powers that be and the system that they are in part keeping alive is broken and fucked up. And this is a story set during the Vietnam War, but it's obviously made in 2020s where it's commenting upon the world of today.
Yeah.
What's it saying about this stuff? Like, what's it getting at? And I can't help but look at the ending and look at so many moments like the Abby Hoffman on the stand moment where it really is what Sorkin is often accused of just pointing to things that are bad and saying, yeah, things are bad, but it's because of the bad people, not the system. And it's like, dude, do you not understand? Like, the system can be bad and the bad people can leverage that for themselves. Like, do you not get that? And I think the answer is not fully. I think he does to an extent, and that's what this movie's doing. It's like, it gives lip service to that this is a racially charged thing with Bobby Seale, but it's also like the film will unironically say the prosecution is using this this black man as a villain figure in the narrative, but now he's been made sympathetic. They want him removed from the trial. And they say they've made a black man a sympathetic character. The film's done that. The film itself has done that, but the film is about all of these white guys. So the film, it's almost like the film is like in itself like, oh, we've made a really sympathetic character that's not the intent of this movie. Like, this movie isn't going to be about the racial inharmony going on here. This is about the political discourse of the senators and the cops against the protesters and all of that, and like the protesters' inner quarrels about how to protest correctly. But damn, this Bobby Seale guy, he brings all of this other stuff that makes that look inconsequential in comparison, and we don't want to deal with that in this movie. So I don't want to deal with it, so let's move it away. And so that line where they said, oh, you've made a black man the sympathetic character, it's like, film, do you know that you did that? I don't think it does. There's many moments where I'm like, I don't know if the film knows what it's saying contradicts itself at times.
Yeah, it's just the recurring thing with this film. Like, even though I still liked it, just coming back to my doubts of like, are we missing something here, or are we jumping around too much?
What did you feel about the filmmaking itself? We've talked about Aaron Sorkin a bit as like he's a well-known writer, and he has a very specific style where it can be very writerly, very auteur. Like, he has a lot of zingers. Characters have zingers.
Yeah,
but what did you feel about his directorial style?
I think it relatively worked for me. There are quite a number of like fast-paced, dialogue bits where, going back to the whole zingers thing, like, it does get a little bit exhausting when you try to remember that this is based on like a real life situation. Like, you got the scene where what's his name, the Eddie Redmayne character is being arrested by the cops, and they keep giving him like contradictory instructions. And
a bit of comedy.
It gets a bit exhausting. But I did like how, and I could see this not working for me in some other films, but it worked for me here. There were a couple of moments where we're getting like exposition or testimony or something like that, and it cuts to like other characters giving like their version of the story at the same time, or like in different times. So there's like, someone's giving a testimony in the courtroom, and then we cut to the Sacha Baron Cohen character giving a speech to the crowd. And it is following the narrative, like consistently. There's not like contradictions or anything like that, but you are getting like the different sides of the story in their own voices.
And some dramatic irony that comes with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed all of those moments.
Yes, I had issues because I feel like because it's a courtroom drama for the most part, that's inherently considered boring. We've got to zhuzh it up. We've got to make it cinematic. We can't make it theatery. We can't rely on certain things, and visually we have to make it pop a little. And I found the editing style of the movie, as well as the way that the actors are machine gun firing through their lines, that's a part of Sorkinisms, is the rhythm of his lines, how they're spoken, that everything felt like a montage. Everything felt at the speed, rhythm, and coherency of a trailer and a montage. I never really felt like I got to sit in a moment fully. And I personally disagree with the creative choice, and this is just me, I did not enjoy the creative choice of actually having flashbacks and actually getting to see outside of the here and now trial. I don't mind getting to see Sacha Baron Cohen on the news or him at a club speaking to people like during the trial era, but I did not care for the long sections where it's like, and now we're cut back to the night itself. I would rather have the fun of in court being told these contradictory events and maybe getting these little snap cuts to a moment, but actual full sequences there, like the sequence where they run up the hill and we just have a whole little brutal action scene with the ride. I didn't need that. I think it just took away, and it felt like the style is compensating for the idea that courtroom dramas are boring.
Yeah, and that's actually my biggest sticking point, because I mentioned before that one of the biggest reasons I picked this was, I really want another courtroom drama, because we've done a couple on this podcast that I've really liked, like Anatomy of a Murder or Breaker Morant. And one of the big things about those is that you stick in there for like what the film presents as like the whole day of that trial. You know, you see all of the moments, you see the, you know,
The
A to B to
process.
C, yeah, the whole process. So in this film, when you do have all those flashbacks and like, you know, you're cutting ahead like weeks and many days, like, well, we're now on day 93. We were just on day, you know, half of that just before. It does just feel like you're getting like the big moments rather than like the whole laborious process.
And with a courtroom drama, as interesting as if it's a real life story is, and you can really delve into like the ethics and justice and themes, of course. But with a film in particular, you need a character point of view. And we've said it, this film is so scattershot that it's hard to say who the lead is. It's not Eddie Redmayne, but it is Eddie Redmayne. It's not the lawyer, but it is the lawyer. It's not Abby Hoffman, but it is Abby Hoffman. But it's not an ensemble piece either. It doesn't feel like we fully get the sense of this being an ensemble. But there is, like, John Carroll Lynch's character, who's the conscientious objector. He has a mini arc where he's like, to his son, violence is never the answer. And then he himself throws a punch in court and you see his son's disappointed face. And, like, that's supposed to be something, but other than me liking John Carroll Lynch as an actor and the idea of his character being like the real odd duck out in the room outside of the Black Panther leader, because he's like the middle-aged, like he's the oldest one.
Yeah.
He's a conscientious objector. He is presented as like the most civil one.
He wears like a suit. And,
he's a Boy Scout leader and things like that. He's a family man.
Yeah,
he's the only one we understand has children.
Yeah, and he's been doing it for much longer. They mentioned that he did it even during World War II.
And there's an ethical wonder there. Like, how do you feel about a conscientious objector? You would like to think that you would agree with them, but then you're told, like, he did it even during World War II, a war that even still to this day is one that a lot of people think, well, that one was worth fighting for. But, you know, the film's not about, like, the film doesn't want to touch that. It just wants to have, like, he existed, this guy did exist, and we'll give him something,
Yeah.
which is that little violent arc. And I'm like, yeah, but
His arc is meant to be that, like, the process, like, he's trying to be calm throughout the whole film, but, like, the amount of time that passes, like, really wears him down to the point that, like, he accidentally, like, just loses it at one point and punches a guy, because immediately after, he is completely remorsefully, like, as he's being dragged away, he just can't help but apologize, and, you know, that would have hit harder if we, like, knew that was coming.
or cared about him more.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, Breaker Morant, you had those three guys. You liked those guys, and you liked the lawyer. You liked them. You understood these main people. You know, Anatomy of a Murder, it's like Jimmy Stewart's your main guy. You understand him, even if his people he's defending are scummy or have something on with them. You're rooting for him.
Yeah.
And you even like the judge, and you even like the prosecution. This film, it's like, it tries to do that, like with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like it wants you to kind of like him a little, but I have no reason to. So when at the end, he stands up as well, it was so corny. It was so corny because it feels inauthentic to me. Even if that I don't know if that did, but if that genuinely happened, it feels inauthentic, as does Eddie Redmayne's going to read all of the names because it's so clunkily, well, not clunkily, it's so obviously set up in the movie.
Yeah, there's
that
like
you know
2 or 3 moments where it's like building up to it.
And you know it's supposed to be the moment where not only are you supposed to maybe, you know, feel a little teary-eyed, but it's almost like you should be saluting when he does it.
That's a good way.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's so American in that way. There's something so like, you almost feel like you should put your hand on your heart while he does it.
No, you can just stand up and clap.
You stand up and clap. Yeah, I feel like I'm being very harsh on the movie, but how about you level us out and tell us a little bit more of the things that work?
No, I mean, I do agree with a lot of what you're saying there. That moment when that came, it really threw me for a loop, even though I guess now in retrospect it shouldn't have. Oh no, I guess the clapping really did throw me for a loop. Obviously, that moment of reading out the list was set up, you know, from the very beginning, like, oh, I'm writing down all these names because I think we just need to, you know, at the end of the day, we need to remember, like, who we're really, you know, caring for in this whole situation. You got another moment where, like, the names are, like, showing on TV and everyone, like, stops what they're doing to look at the names and then go back to what they're doing. It's like, okay, this is something important. But also the fact that that moment is preceded by the judge giving this long monologue about how you're the good one. If you continue being good in this final moment, like, I will like you and you will have a bright, bright future. And it's clearly setting up, you know.
You know what it is? It's Star Wars The Last Jedi, where Snoke is just like, yes, Kylo Ren, turn your lightsaber against the one you hate.
Yes, it is that moment.
Yes, it's almost identical to, and then Kylo Ren's like, you're saying I should take down the one that I don't like? Yes, as the lightsaber's slowly turning around to aim at Snoke. Yeah. It's that scene.
Yeah, it is, but it's a legal drama.
Yeah. I mean, the judge looked like Snoke.
If anyone in this film would,
Big, bold white guy, yeah.
Another thing is that, you know, for this film being about the 7, there's like 2 that I only really acknowledge because I remember the judge saying their last name wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, like, as I finished this film, okay, they're the 2 guys who are like the more like straight-laced. They're the 2 silly ones. There's John Carroll Lynch, and then there's the black guy. I'm like, oh, but there were meant to be 8. Who are the other 2? And
Eddie Redmayne.
No, he's one of the straight-laced ones.
Oh, straight-laced. Oh, there's the other 2 straight-laced ones.
Yeah,
Sorry, there's 2 that are a pair that are considered the outliers because they are just straight-laced normal people.
Yeah, I just can't remember anything about them other than when I looked up their names. I'm like, oh, I remember the judge saying their names wrong.
The thing about those 2 guys, they even have a bit in the movie, is like they're there to be acquitted, so it's justified when we convict the others.
Yeah.
They're here to make it look like the trial had some actual form of legitimacy. So we threw 2 whatevers. Then they threw in the black man who had nothing to do with anything, but that was just to like vilify them because we're relying on racism. Like that's what the prosecution is thinking.
The scary
black man of the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
The best scene of the movie talk positives. The best scene of the movie, fantastic scene, is when the judge, like, uncharacteristically stops everything, and then he's like, I need you two lawyers to come into my chambers. We have to have a talk. And it was the two jurors that are sympathetic towards the defense just happen to get death threats
from the Black Panthers.
From the Black Panthers. Their families did. And then bringing in that female juror to read the letter, and that woman did such a great performance, like such a little bit part, but her being trepidatious to read it, then reading it, and then just the prolonged, like, that was a moment where we got to sit in a scene.
Yeah, and the judge just kept asking leading questions.
Mm-hmm. And not letting the defense talk, but letting the prosecution, just things like that was the best scene, because we actually got to stop and sit in a moment and really soak in the subtext what's really going on here, and like how truly screwed up it is. And I even like when we get more explicit about, like, the Black Panthers, like the mob, don't write notes.
Yeah.
And sign off.
That's not what they do.
That's not what they do. And as soon as I find out it's you guys, you'll be seeing the legal system proper. It was so... And I like that we never came back to that. There was no moment in the movie where it's like, and we did find out it was genuinely the cops or whatever. That's just left...
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. The film doesn't answer all the questions, like who killed the guy that died.
Yeah.
The Waves guy.
Yeah, we do know for a fact in real life that it really wasn't a political assassination, but the film puts it out there in a very heated moment where it's kind of relevant but flippant at the same time. Strange.
Yeah, the quote that I read that on the Wikipedia, where it's like, oh, historical criticism, was that character apparently had like a fuck you monologue towards the judge, where he's like, basically saying, like, you are, a cancer on this system, but you're an old fossil and we'll just wait for you to die, or something like that.
That would have been good.
And it's like, oh, that kind of would have worked for this film's point of view, to have that character say something like that.
Yeah, it's just... What did you feel about the conflict between Sacha Baron Cohen's character and Eddie Redmayne's? The inner war between the rebellion, you could say. Like,
yeah.
Here are these people who, on paper, should be unified because they're against the war, but they disagree on what being against a war looks like, and even if one of them is truly against the war.
I liked it for the most part, but again, when you go forward to the fact that, like, Sacha Baron Cohen's like a fan of his and he knows, like, his writing, and he points out where the mistake happened. That felt like a very, like, writerly twist on it, because the whole thing with the two of them is that the Eddie Redmayne duo are I called them straight-laced before, but they're the ones who are, like, all about the facts. This is wrong. We need to go do this. We need to do it by the books. And
we can cause revolution by being sensible.
Yeah, and the Sacha Baron Cohen duo is the yippies. They're the ones who are, the outrageous. They're doing, like, the stunts. They see this whole trial as a moment to, we are going to lose. We may as well, make a joke of the whole system.
And make it political.
Yeah.
Because it is political.
Yeah. So Eddie Redmayne's like, no, we need to try and win this thing and make our point. And they're like, no, we need to, make this like a whole big scene.
It's interesting because Eddie Redmayne's character is one for revolution, but if it's civil. If we do it correctly, by the rules.
Yeah.
There's a system in place that we can work within. The typical, we can work within the system to fix the system. And Sacha Baron Cohen's character, Abby Hoffman, is arguing cultural revolution. And he's saying cultural revolution does not just mean on a societal level, but also on an individual level. And that is fascinating. That's truly fascinating. And there's that moment where him and Eddie Redmayne's character confront each other about JFK.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a very strong, like, lawful, chaotic dynamic.
Yeah, and it was a very good scene. And then Eddie Redmayne's so flabbergasted, like, he's just so pissed off and so angry. And then Sacha Baron Cohen digs it in with just the, so you don't mind cultural revolution for that, though. And it's like, you aren't being consistent. I am being consistent. And you're saying we could only do things in a very mannered, consistent way, but you can't do that because you're a person. That's what I'm arguing, and I liked that. But then the film ends.
Sacha Baron Cohen be like, he's the greatest guy.
But then the film ends not only with that, but agreeing with Eddie Redmayne's approach. And I'm sorry. If you're thinking about this film when it came out, 2020, we know, not only just from today's standpoint, but we knew then as well, you're not just going to politely, meekly, just, civilly, just like, we will undo all the horrors by just, facts and logicking it our way out. That's not how it's worked. Didn't work then either. This is a post-first election Trump. This is,
last year of the first term.
And then this obviously doesn't know about the pandemic when it was made, obviously.
No, sorry. That was the first year of the Biden term.
Yes. But there's a very Biden era, like now we do it the proper, it's just so Sorkin. Like in The West Wing, without getting too much into it, The West Wing had the major trouble of 9/11 happened in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And how did it have to deal with it? Could it deal with it? And the thing was, its president was a Democrat or Democrat coded president.
In the show. Yeah.
But in the real world,
it was Bush Jr.
So they had to, in their fictional but real world political symbiosis show, had to figure out what would a Democrat president or Democrat coded president react to 9/11 with.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, the actual real world, we lived in it, especially in America, the psyche that took place, very different. So that's Sorkin in a nutshell for me. It's just like he has things he thinks about and says, and I'm not familiar enough with his psyche. But when you watch a thing like this and the way this ends, you can't help but be like, this guy's got something going on as a creative voice. Like, he's got something. And I don't know if I like it or if I don't know if I agree with it. And does that matter? It's a creative piece of work. It should be able to. But that's the thing. Many creative pieces of work, especially one like this where it is about the politics, is about the politics. And so I get frustrated when the film that's arguing about Cultural Revolution doesn't actually believe in it for the most part, but it brings it up because, well, this character was about it. I'm like, I want you to also believe in it as well, because this is one of the positive characters in the movie. So I want you, the film, to like understand it more, but you don't.
Yeah.
It's lip service.
I'm thinking now, like, there's a lot of films that we've done which like, oh, this is clearly like a liberal film. This is like a very clearly conservative film, and there's like very consistent ideology there. This one's definitely liberal, but it feels like very general, very general liberal. Like it's just reaching in all different facets rather than sticking to like a consistent message.
Other than like, there's just a few bad apples. That's the most consistent. There's a few bad apples out there, but it's fine.
Yeah, arguably said by the wrong character though.
Yep. And hey, don't you worry. The despicable vixen female undercover agent that lied on the stand or obfuscated on the stand, she's good, actually. She's one of the good ones. Even though what we've shown demonstrates completely opposite that, but whatever. She's one of the good ones because she's a hot woman. That was a part of it too. And I was like, okay, buddy. I don't know what else to say about the trial of the Chicago 7. Like, do you want to talk about the performances? I mean, you wanted this partly because of Sacha Baron Cohen, and we only recently talked about him with Grimsby.
My last American pick, yeah.
Yeah.
He was fun. I enjoy seeing him in things where he's like not the writer.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed him. I felt very guilty, though, because I read afterwards he was very panicked about doing an American accent for an entire film that wasn't a comedy role. And I feel very silly because I didn't realize he was doing one. I thought he was just doing a silly voice, but I didn't think about, like, of course he is, but like my brain was just like, I've heard him speak enough where I just kind of knew.
I will say he does sound like one of his Who is America characters, the ultra-liberal character. I knew that he was doing an American voice, but I think there was one moment where he like really slipped back into his British, and that was pretty funny.
Mark Rylance is another one where it's like him, Eddie Redmayne. all these Brits in this movie are struggling through their accents. And again, that lends to the inauthenticity of the film. Like, I'm supposed to believe that these are the Chicago 7, you know, and there's 3 very clearly British people in the movie. But then you pair them, again, this is how you can tell. You have these 3 guys sitting opposite of Michael Keaton. That's a guy I believe from Chicago. You know, like, that's a fucking guy. He was magnificent in this movie.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know he was going to be in it. So it's a nice little jump scare. I was like, oh, it's Batman's here.
There was this feeling because that character's name is said throughout the film. Like the whole opening of the film, like he just keeps getting mentioned, and then eventually halfway through the film, he gets brought up again, and it's like, oh, we need to go see him. And like you haven't seen what he looks like yet. You're outside his house. Like, oh, how do we get in there and see him? Like, I guess we just ring the doorbell.
He's like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, and then they get let in by the house lady. It's like, in this room, gentlemen. And there's still like 10 seconds before you get to that room. And then finally you see the guy, and it's big Hollywood actor Michael Keaton. It's like, ooh,
yeah,
I think we're in for something nice here.
Yeah, Michael Keaton's such a fascinating actor because, you know, he's a big American actor, of course, but there's something about him where he's had such a up and down career where I still think of him as like a lovable character actor in a way, even though like he was Batman, he's been nominated for Oscars, all of that, Birdman, but that was like a comeback for him, right?
Yeah.
A late era comeback, and you know, that type of thing. So when I saw him in this, I was like, yay, it's my buddy Michael Keaton. I love that guy. I'm so happy to see him. But he was so great. He was so natural.
Again, this was another thing where like the way that he was introduced, it did have this kind of Hollywood feel of like, oh, this is a big actor. This guy isn't going to be like ridiculed or put in a negative light, but his charisma like carried the believability of the performance for me.
And with any, you know, stylized writer or director, some actors are naturals with it. Like with Quentin Tarantino, he has certain actors he keeps going back to because they are good at his style. Same with Scorsese, same with so many. And with Sorkin, it is without a doubt, to me, Michael Keaton's the guy in the movie that can do the Sorkin lines. He was so natural with them. Like, he had quips. He had, like, his moment where he revealed he brought everyone here so that he could breathe. and in another actor's hands, heck, another actor in this cast's hands, that could have been corny or fallen on its face. Or even when he's leaving and he, like, leans over, is like, good luck on the appeal. It's almost like John Wayne has left the movie, like the All-American Hero has left the movie, and now it's left for the scum to figure out. But he's so good at this Sorkin dialogue. But then you get Eddie Redmayne, who's not. Like, there are people who are born to do this type of dialogue, and that's what I mean. Like Tarantino, he always uses Samuel L. Jackson because he can say motherfucker like no one else can.
Oh yeah, it's his word.
Yeah, you have so many of those guys that it's like, you know, they can just do it. Like Michael Keaton, he could do Tarantino stuff. He was in Jackie Brown. Remember? He was the cop in Jackie Brown.
Yes, he was.
He was the stylish cop who wore a leather jacket.
Yeah,
and it was revealed he's played that exact character in another movie, which is like, I'd watch that.
Officer White, I think.
Yeah, he's just, there are certain actors who can do it. You know, we said the judge, Frank Langella's great. He's amazing in the movie. He's so genuinely believable as this futtering, duttering old man.
Yeah, so despicable and annoying, but like in a good way.
And he plays it so well of how much of is this him just being like a fuddy-duddy, and how much of is this him being like a truly biased, evil, sinister judge?
Yeah.
And as soon as Michael Keaton enters the frame as well, it's really played up both sides of that, because he will be like unironically playing up the fuddy-duddy blah 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 to the court, but then when he talks to Michael Keaton, you know that's an act, because he's like, he likes Michael Keaton, he wants Michael Keaton to do okay.
He's like cowering to him in a way.
Yeah,
it's like, sir, I if you keep doing this, I'll like have to hold you in contempt. Like, please don't do this.
And it just highlights how much of an act this judge is putting on throughout the whole show. It's so good.
Mike Keaton's line where he's like, the president's not my client.
I'm sure that there's lots of humor in the movie. Obviously, Frank Langella has a lot of it, but I did...
Him and Sacha Baron Cohen, for having the same last names, had a lot of good little moments.
That was so wonderful. Any of the other cast that stand out to you, or you have opinions on?
No, not really.
Am I being mean to Eddie Redmayne? I feel like Eddie Redmayne's kind of like a punching bag for a lot of people.
For me, he was just okay. I don't think he was too awful or anything. He kind of he does remind me a little bit of the Mark Zuckerberg performance in Social Network, I guess, because he does have that like kind of main character energy, trying to keep things sane, I guess. But it's been a while since I've seen that film, so maybe I'm misremembering.
I just can't help but be like, you look British. And so I don't believe you. Like, there's just certain people who look...
But in Theory of Everything, he had a robotic American accent.
That he did. Again, we've said the guy who plays Bobby Seale, but Yahya Abdul-Mateen, fantastic. Presence. Like, that's another reason why you're drawn to him. He's like, that actor, he's embodying this role. He is so good. And he doesn't have the Sorkinism, quippy nature.
Not
like,
at
he
all,
just
no.
feels like everything, because he's in the court.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I bet you dollars to donuts, like 95% of his lines are just transcript, straight copy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not shocked. He was just so... He sounded different to everyone else.
He might have had some Sorkinisms in like his opening, like the Warriors prologue moment, where he's like, someone's going to give him a gun, and he's like, if I knew how to use that, I wouldn't be this political person.
Yeah, exactly.
But other than that, yeah, he's just very straight-laced.
Yeah, and likable. Like, he says all the things that you're like, yeah, brother. And the Black Panthers are like a very complicated group. Like, there's a lot of nuances and a lot of divisive opinions about them. And the film is just like, da 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 da, moving past, la da 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 da, woo! And it's just... But they're in the courtroom, they're like, take off your scary hats, and it's a joke.
Yeah,
it's
and
like,
they've got like little tactics like, all right, guys, look, we need to spread out throughout the crowd. We can't just all be sitting behind
but they
them.
stand out because
Yeah.
they're all in their outfits. It's so funny. Like, again, there's little moments like that. My final big critique, this does look like a Netflix movie. It's very drained, color palette wise. It doesn't feel very cinematic. Like, the bound and gag scene, that should be like a true standout moment, like a real big, you point to that moment as the big thing of the movie, but it's shot so flatly. It's shot with such a lifeless color palette, and it's just there. It's a startling image. Just naturally, you can't help but feel that way, and the film says as much. But it's not very evocative in the filmmaking. Like, I bet you put this in the hands of Spike Lee, what would he have done with that? Like a black filmmaker, what would they do with that moment there? Or even someone like Martin Scorsese, he does something like Killers of the Flower Moon, and that film is very evocative and very moving and not afraid to get right up in there with its filmmaking when it comes to the depictions of hardships to, minority groups, to indigenous groups. And this is a moment in the movie that should be like the big horrifying thing, and it looks like an episode of a Netflix show.
Yeah. Like the scene, like the quick cuts we get of him like being beaten and like tied up are very dramatic, but then once he's brought back in, it is just kind of, here it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, how do you feel about like the stigma nowadays of straight to streaming movies? Because it's much more the common thing now, but I feel like we would want to say that it's unfair, but there has been a lot of just like slop out there. Like, there's just straight to like Netflix. Nowadays, when you say it's a Netflix movie, that doesn't mean it's good. It often means it's lifeless, kind of nothing.
And when we say that, is it like one of those produced by Netflix things, or is it just that's the way that the people decided they wanted to distribute it? I guess that's one of the first questions you have to ask.
Yeah, and where do you land?
Yeah, I mean, I still think I need to see more to truly get it, but I do remember, like, in the past, we've had moments where we'd like recommend documentaries to each other. And some of the ones that you recommended me were by HBO. And those ones often had like, dramatic like flashback reenactment stuff that, I felt like, oh, this kind of deviates away from like what I would want from this kind of product, even though it is like kind of effective. So I guess it's just that kind of thing of, yeah, I guess there's a certain expectation that you have about films, and there's like some sort of different vibe or something when you watch it on streaming. But then it complicates it with this question of like, well, the film was made and planned to be in theaters, so what truly makes this different if it is put on Netflix in the end.
I'm not a snob about film versus digital, but
You're not Spielberg or whoever was the big one that hates it. Was it Spielberg?
Tarantino. Tarantino hates digital.
Right.
Christopher Nolan is another one. I think he's very film, but the point being was, with the age of more digital filmmaking, it lends credence to the idea that films are much more TV streaming cheap looking. Like there's lots of issues now because of digital and just how the film industry works, where lighting's a big thing. Like we said with this movie, it doesn't look very dramatic, but it's shot and edited like it's supposed to be dramatic because we're just moving. But when you actually sit in it, it just looks like a show. It doesn't look very cinematic. So if this was released in cinemas, it would be kind of weird to see, but at the same time, a lot of movies kind of just have this washed out meh quality, and that's kind of the sad thing, where it's like there are a few filmmakers of big names. They don't do that because they are big names and they shoot on film or da-da-da. And there are people who know how to make digital. There's plenty of shot on digital films that look great. I'm not discounting that, but I think it's just that the digital part of it kind of lends credence to the idea that the straight to streaming thing, like I think it all kind of goes hand in hand of like the inshitification and the sloppification of cinema for people, and just the idea that the streaming aspect is a part of that problem too, where it incentivizes it to be that way.
I guess, yeah, it is also cheaper for like marketing and release costs, right? Because you don't have to worry about theaters and stuff like that.
And no physical releases and things like that. Like when you hear that Adam Sandler has signed a movie contract deal with Netflix, you're not heartbroken about it. You're not like, oh no, I won't be able to see that in the cinema. But when you hear Martin Scorsese has to do it for Apple TV Plus, yeah, right? Like the look on your face, you get kind of squinting.
It's a conflicting thing because it's like, oh, that's good. That makes it easier for him, but there is just this weird vibe to it. Yeah. And there really shouldn't be, but there somehow is.
Remember during the pandemic when this all happened, Christopher Nolan is the only fucking big filmmaker who's like, fuck you, my films aren't going to streaming, they're going to the cinema.
Yeah, there was
They'll make $1 billion, and they did.
That big one, right?
Tenant?
That's it, yeah, Tenant.
But that's enough about that. I don't recommend The Trial of the Chicago 7. I recommend just looking it up, reading about it, learning more about it for yourself. Again, I didn't do the deepest dive, but I just had a thing where I looked at the end of this movie where everyone stood up and clapped. And it freeze framed. Oh, did you stick around for the credits where it gave like the sitcom like credits where it's like, here's a little flash of the actors during the movie, and here's the actor's name pop up.
I stuck around for that, but after that,
here's
I
a split screen of all these. That was weird. What a weird way to end your movie.
Made me think of like the end of Shark Tale, because they did the same thing, but with like the characters.
The trial. I sure hope that all of the people who were tried in the Chicago 7 think that, yes, I want my story to be represented the same way as Shark Tale starring Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, that's why I thought of Shark Tale. Yeah, Martin Scorsese.
No, I don't recommend it. It's one where it's just the story's more interesting than what was produced to make the story.
I did like the film, so I would recommend it, but if you are like me and you want specifically to watch like a really good legal drama, this didn't fulfill that need in me. Like Anatomy of a Murder and Breaker Morant would be what I would point to immediately instead.
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men as well. I rewatched that a few months ago because I just really wanted to watch something like that.
Yeah, and that's just them in the back room. That's the jurors.
That's just jurors. You don't even really see the trial.
Yeah, there's so many great little legal dramas. You said Ace Attorney.
Yeah, those are fun too.
Watch the Ace Attorney movie. Why not? I haven't watched it, but
it's good.
Sure, it's good.
Play the games.
Takashi Miike did the movie, so
he did.
Enjoy his silly style.
It's an adaptation of the first game.
There you go. But that is it. It is my time to recommend a film.
It is Ryan Slewinski's turn to recommend a film.
It's my turn now, and I am going to choose a smaller film And
What year are you up to? 2020?
yeah, 2020, because I do believe that initially I had a film picked and you picked the film.
Oh, was this the another round?
Mm-hmm. But I've now had to swap it out with another movie because you chose another round. I'm going to go with The Kid Detective. The Kid Detective.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, of course, a detective movie. So everyone make sure to give that a watch for yourself. I have not seen this, but it's one I'm like, oh, I've been meaning to check that out. I heard good word of mouth about it. So let's see what
American?
the hubbub... I do believe so.
Okay.
I believe the lead actor guy is more of like I think he's more of a TV actor. I think he was like in the OC. I don't know too much. I know a little bit, but we'll discuss it next time on the pod. So make sure to give that a viewing for yourself. But until then, Bartek, where can people find us and how can people contact us?
You can find us on the internet in various different places. The main ones would be we have a Twitter page, Spit and Polish Presents, where we basically just tweet about when episodes come out. Same with our Facebook page, also called Spit and Polish Presents. We upload our episodes onto all sorts of different podcatchers, but one of the ones that we're most active on is our YouTube channel, where you can leave comments. That one is, of course, also called Spit and Polish Presents. On any of the above or on our email, you can send us suggestions for every third episode, because this was an episode where I suggested something, Ryan just suggested something for the next episode. But the third episode in this cycle is the listening people's choices, and those are anyone but us suggesting films, so you can contact us on any of those. The email is spitandpolished@gmail.com. Everything goes on the list, even if we can't find it, because maybe in the future we can.
Maybe we can. Maybe we can. We try, and sometimes we do succeed. So that is it. Everyone, make sure to be kind to each other, or you will be overruled by Frank Langella, the Frank Langella, who, if I'm not mistaken, was Skeletor.
Oh, there you go.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He was Skeletor in the original live-action
Oh, Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe. He was, I'm pretty sure, I'll be egg on my face if I'm wrong, but he's that guy. He was Skeletor, the best part of that movie, and has claimed to this day it's his favorite role.
Oh.
Unironically, it's like, he's played Nixon. He was Frost v. Nixon.
Yeah, but is that more fun than Skeletor?
I mean, it must have been fun to be Nixon, to be like, when the president does it, it's not illegal. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Frost Nixon. So the strange thing about Frost Nixon is Frank Langella's performance as Nixon is very, very odd. Just confirmed, he was Skeletor, I was right.
Mm-hmm.
So Frank Langella is Nixon, right? He's playing Nixon, and Nixon is famously American, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And Frost, the interviewer, he is not. And in the movie, it's like Michael Sheen is Frost, and he's British, and that's fun. But Frank Langella, he's playing Nixon, and he plays Nixon like he's British. It's very strange. Like, he's from New Jersey, Frank Langella. So the famous line where he's just like, when the president does it, it's not illegal. But when he says it, it's like, when the president does it, it's not illegal.
Not.
It's very British. Everyone go back to that movie and just wonder, why does he sound more like Winston Churchill than he does fucking Nixon? But that was like an acclaimed movie. Everyone liked that movie, but when I watched it, I just couldn't get past Nixon being British for some reason. And he's played by an American actor in the movie. I don't know what's going on.
Going back to what I was saying before about how, I used to watch the Oscars, the year that Frost Nixon came out or was in the award season was when I started. So I always associate that to like, oh yeah, that first Oscars that I watched.
Yeah.
Where our boy, Hugh Jackman, was the host.
Huge Ackman?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman. I mentioned Shark Tale before, but last week we mentioned inferior fish movie Finding Nemo.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about like, who was the one that liked the bubbles? And I said it was the puffer fish. When I got home, I was like, wait a second, that character wasn't that crazy. It was some other character. And I looked it up, and there's a yellow fish named Bubbles who likes the bubbles. And I felt embarrassed, but then I got vindicated because of a detail about this character that allows me to make the mistake.
Okay.
They are voiced by Stephen Root.
I knew it. I knew that. By the way, I knew it was Stephen Root before.
There you go.
But that's why you just like erased it from your brain.
Yeah, because I'm allowed to miss things about him.
You were like Dotrieve, and that's it.
I knew
Stephen
Bill.
Root. That's all you need is Dotrieve. That's it.
Bill.
Yeah, Bill Dotrieve.